With this, let's quickly go to the fourth panel discussion. New Age Leadership Frameworks, Integrated Talent Management Strategies. I request my panelists to join me on stage. Please welcome on stage Mr. Faisal Saiyed, Director, Human Resources, India at Expedia. Can I please have the gentleman on stage with us? Everyone, please welcome the gentleman on stage. A very warm welcome. Can I please have Mr. Arun Sehgal, Director, HR, Glaxo, SmithKline, to kindly join us on stage? Mr. Arun Sehgal. Welcome on stage. Can I please have Mr. Arvind and Agrawal, Management Board Member and President-Corp Development and HR, RPG Enterprises, to join me on stage? Please welcome him on stage. Can I please have Mr. Murali Padmanabhan, Senior Director and Global Head of Learning and Leadership Development, Virtusa Corporation, to kindly join me on stage? Please welcome him on stage, everyone. Can I please invite Jyotsna Bhatnagar, Chairperson, Postgraduate Program in HR, Management Development Institute, to join me on stage? Let's welcome the lady on stage. Can I please have Mr. Aquil Busrai, CEO, Aquil Busrai Consulting, on stage with us? Welcome on stage. And I invite our moderator of this session, Mr. P. Dwarkanath, Advisor Group Human Capital Max India, to kindly moderate this session.
Okay. Otherwise will be, I don't mind standing here.
Light. So it just shows it's not easy to be on the camera.
All have been given the mics?
Sir,
Yeah. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I can only assure you one thing. Thanks for your patience. We are behind schedule by more than an hour. But I can tell you we have we have very eminent panels here with rich experience in various sectors. We have academicians, your practicing managers, your consultants, very rich background of more than 40 years onwards, and also from who worked in India, abroad, multinational, Indian, sunrise industries and traditional industries. So as you know, this is a very, very interesting topic which we have been debating for decades now, I think, which has become more relevant for the Indian context, where we are talking about our youth power, employees' dividend, and one of the greatest advantages we have is that our young workforce and also the potential workforce which will emerge in next few years. So having said that, I think, to set the context, I'm acting as a moderator, but I think, the more will be done by the panelists. We will keep some time for the questions, answers once they finish their perspectives and viewpoints. I will request the organizers not to give any bell because we are self-managed team. We'll maintain the time what has been given. Only thing is Arvind has to leave a little bit early because he has a hard stop at 5 because he has to catch a flight. So with this, just an introduction. I'm not going to introduce the panel. You all know about it, has been given. I think I just want to say a few aspects in this. I do not consider talent management any longer as a HR challenge. It's a business challenge, and it's an imperative. It's not something nice to have, but it's a business imperative. NHRDN, about 6-7 years back, National HRD Network, has conducted a leadership survey in India through Wharton University. With a very intense research, 75 Indian business leaders and 25 CHROs from leading organizations. And this research, 5 key challenges have been asked by them. And I think what I want to say, what has been said in 2006 or 7 holds good today as well, before the financial meltdown, even after that, with some changes slightly in other priorities. 5 key priorities have been asked, challenges, both for the only Indian business leaders, and you name any top Indian business leader was in that program, as well as 25 CHROs. Everyone has identified without any doubt among the top 2 key challenges, the talent management. Managing talent is the biggest challenge. So in India, we have plenty of people, but do you have the right kind of people? And this is where the challenge comes. As I said, is more a business imperative. So I would have been happy if there are some of the CXOs are also here, and among with the CHROs, it could have added a business dimension. But having said, we have a very competent panel who will be able to answer this. I think the one thing is whether the talent management for a sunrise industries would different from a traditional industries, whether manufacturing versus IT industry, is it different? Or is it something, which no one size fits all? I think each sector, each organization has to look its own. You can have a broad guidelines. And whether it's a buy strategy or a build strategy or a buy and build strategy, building your leadership pipeline, grow your own timber, or is it something which you can acquire whenever you want it? So what is the strategies? And in the changing current landscape and businesses, this has become imperative for everyone to address it. CHROs, the HR is there to facilitate and guide, but I think, as I said, it's more from a business imperative, which is very important to address. So having said that, I would start, I think, to get a very conceptual framework. We have distinguished academician, Dr. Jyotsna Bhatnagar. I would ask her the question, Jyotsna, what do you think, given the current landscape, that talent management is talking about in terms of new strategies or development, which you would like to throw light to the audience, please?
Thank you, Dwarkaji. Yes, well, we are talking of the challenge is talent, and more than talent, it's the talent risk, which is a challenge in India, as well as it's a global war of talent, be it China, be it Argentina, be it India, or be it South America or Africa. Everywhere it's a challenge, talent risk, to retain talent, one, and to develop leaders to the talent pipeline. One has to do away with labeling of talent. You do not want A, B, C, D, which is the 9 blocker which GE had, Shell or others had given us. Do away with the labeling, one. Second, there is Ramcharan had said, leaders are at all levels. So work with the leaders at all levels, talent at all levels. Then look at the integrated approach to the evolving business model, which is changing in emerging markets, which is India as well as South Asia and others, and even in US, the changing markets. So evolving business models, and you look at what is, and what Mr. Narayan had said, first the social capital, how much the social network is there. Network is your net worth. So can you look at the talent pool which is getting a social network? Is he talking the language of business, business capital? Then you look at political and reputational capital as well, both for the brand, political and reputational capital, and to make it contextual to India, does the talent development leader has spiritual capital? So all of it together, that's an integrated approach. And of course you delink it from talent development per se, and you look at how you are developing people over time and keep believing in them, so they will stay with you. So look at the talent glue, look at the talent risk, look at how also the talent, the leadership that you have defined, what are the competency derailers which are there, and they could derail. So are you picking them up and putting them back on track so that they climb up? And of course the best model to develop talent is apprenticeship model, where of course you have shadowing or apprenticeship, and where they learn while they are doing the job. So 70-20-10, 70% on the job, 20% by the peers and the coach, and 10% from training and development. But it's on the job learning which happens the most for building their competencies, and of course you build their potential. And Howard just recently, like last night only, came up with that now we are looking at niche competencies as well as potential to take on the lead, and lead in all kind of times. VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex and ambiguous environment. Are you emotionally agile? Can you just pick up yourself and go run faster, and yet be a holistic individual with spiritual, business capital, social capital, political capital, reputational capital?
Thank you, Jyotsna. Very well captured. Arvind, I will move on to you because you need to catch a flight, spend time. You are a Bhishma Pitamaha of NHRD, having spent more than 4 decades, having worked in different businesses, different contexts, and you are one of the best persons to talk about this. My question on behalf of the audience would be, what are the changes you are seeing in the talent management currently, keeping in view of the current landscape and business context? We're all talking, it's more a business challenge. From business context, you see in the span of your 40 years experience in human resources.
Well, thank you, Dwarka. Really appreciate your sensitivity to my hard close at 5 and giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts. The fundamental change I see, there are basically 3 kinds of changes which I see in the context. First is that organization is now operating under very demanding circumstances. So whether it's inside the demands of employees or whether it's in the external environment, demands of customers, governments, the society, rapid changes in technology. So by and large, as leadership, you are caught between a hard place and a rock. And you see that reflected in the declining tenure of CEOs right across the world. So that's one trend of change that we see considerably more, and right here in India as well. The second is that we heard Mr. Narayanan from HCL just talk about how the recruiting has also become digitized. So anything we do in organization has become digital. Consequently, organizations have become flatter, more transparent, and that's a new reality which we have to deal with when it comes to talent management and leadership. The third is that demographics inside the organization. We have Gen Y, and recently we did a quick survey. We sent out questionnaire to the Premier B school students, and we got 600 responses. Firstly, I was very surprised that 600 of them chose to respond back. Yeah. And I thought they are going to talk about their priorities as money, work-life balance, or corporate social responsibility and such like things. But they didn't see anything of those kind. Instead, they said fundamentally what is required are 2 things. That was their top priority. Number 1 is leader must be decisive. Sound decision making of a leader. That's one thing which they had 95% of them said that's fundamentally required. And the second is the trust. That trust. There should be trustworthiness in the way we deal with each other. Now, these Gen Y is what we need to deal with. The third change which I see in the organization is that, in the good old days, you had charismatic, larger than life leader, and the world revolved around this one person, rightly or wrongly. But today, that is replaced by the team leadership. Not just one individual, but the entire senior management, what kind of coherence they display, what kind of shared vision they have, what kind of values they commonly hold, what kind of open conversation that they have, those become very reflective and impactful on the quality of the organization and attractiveness of that organization. So these are fundamental changes which I see over the years that we have to deal with when we look at talent management in the organizations today. Okay,
Arvind, we may not have opportunity again to ask you, I think with the permission of other panelists, I would like to just ask one more question. I think you clarified this concept, articulated very well. I think you, having worked in manufacturing, having worked in sunrise industries, do you think you need to have a different strategies for different sectors?
Well, I find that by and large, the human needs the same. Whether it's in the shop floor, in the manufacturing environment, or whether it's in the retail business, or whether it's in the IT industry, the cosmetics may differ. Recently, in our tire factory in Baroda, for example, we employed a large number of workers. They're all diploma holders. And we had to recognize the kind of aspiration they had. And we brought in what is called self-managed team, which means they plan, organize, and monitor their own work. We are not breathing down their neck through the supervisor and shift in charges. And they even have what is called human action team, which means they have got their own disciplinary rules. So it's self-managed, exactly the way you would see in an IT environment where you will have software engineers who you respect because they're graduate engineers. So today, if I walk into a tire factory in Baroda, or if I walk into a delivery center in Zensar in Pune, they don't look terribly different. So that's the homogeneity which is beginning to come, that aspirations are now more or less equal.
Thank you, Arvind. Let's give a big hand to Arvind.
Thank you. Thank you.
Arvind, you can wait for Aquil bhai, another Bhishma Pitamaha of NHRD. NHRD, 43 years. Just to go further where Arvind has left on the first question, what do you think are the constraints, Aquil, you see in trying to drive this strategic management, talent management agenda?
Thanks, Dwarka. And I think Arvind covered it very nicely about the integration parts. I'll respond to this in two parts. One is external constraint, one is intra-organizational constraint. If I can talk about external constraint, is the pure academia and industry interface, which I think we need to recognize, and we're all recognizing that the supply part of talent and the demand part of talent are not seeing eye to eye altogether. As a result of that, we are churning out students from whether premier or semi-premier institutes based on their perspective what is needed in the industry. Far from what is actually industry asking for, looking for. And I was very surprised, in fact my thesis was on this, Arvind, you know. And in my Viva, I was told by the chairman of the Viva committee that why should we tailor-make talent for industry? Why should we make tailor-make talent for industry? We are not the training department. Now this disconnect is a big constraint because academia has to produce product that is suitable for the user.
Yeah.
Now I'm not blaming academia because the industry people have also not participated, but this is the biggest constraint, is a big gap, and it's very costly because the cost of retraining them
It's very hard.
is very long and costly. The frustration of hiring people who are not utilized is frustrating from the student's point of view, and from the industry it's a waste of resources and time. The internal constraint is very different, in my opinion. All this time we've been managing promotions and growth of talent on managerial skills. I feel the disconnect is happening there because now what is required is not managerial skills, but techno-managerial skills. And people born in 40s and 50s, now managing a young population born in 80s, cannot play with toys. They do not understand that a WhatsApp message, at what time is the meeting, is not rude. It's a practical way that generation is talking, but there's a big disconnect happening because of technology integration for skills that are required, managerial, techno-managerial skills are now being confused with, they don't have managerial skills, but they have high technical skills. I think this integration has to take place because the times are moving. We're not going to manage people in the traditional way we manage people. Style of managing them, I'm not talking about just simply style, I'm talking about the content. So if people are not going to use technology, like in the HR department, we were accustomed to being asked, what is the attrition report every month? In Shell, we started saying, here's an SAP product, this is the way to get reports. If you want any cut, you can get it done. We are not going to send reports to you. So I think that internal challenge is of re-educating our leaders to look at life differently than what they're used to it. I think it's a very big constraint, in my opinion.
Thanks, Aquil. Murali, can I just move on to you?
Yeah. I think you'll have to use that.
And a very experienced HR professional. What is your opinion of the best-in-class development strategies for present-day leaders who are hard-pressed for time?
Yeah, I think especially coming from an IT services company, typically we sell our time to customers. Customers actually pay us for the time we give them because that's the consulting business, right? So time is always is a big challenge, especially in our company. So what we do is we try to embed learning within their work. So what you call as on the job, learn from experience, rather than putting people in a classroom 8 hours and stuff like that. So leadership development, especially in our context, I think is very important for us to have that apprenticeship, shadowing, coaching, mentoring. I think these are some of the strategies which we adopt to ensure that leaders get the developmental intervention when it's actually absolutely necessary. And there are also studies which show that learning is at its maximum when you provide it when actually people need it, right? So that's one way of doing it. Another piece, especially leveraging technology. Today, people don't need information because information is available. They have access to information, and we being an IT company, obviously we have access to all the digital assets that one can lay their hands on. So it's all about how do I contextualize this information in my context? How do I do it? So we don't really put people through structured classroom intervention, but it's more about relying on informal, on-the-job, development. So I think that's the best way to go.
Thanks, Murali. Now, Faisal?
I have your permission.
Yeah, please. Thank you, Arvind. Thanks. Thank you for joining us. You came all the way from Mumbai to participate in this panel discussion. Thank you. Thanks, sir. Thanks. Faisal, can I call the young tuck of the team?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so I think let us get a different perspective from you, talking about, Jyotsna talked about Gen Y, managing aspirations, and all others have also touched upon, that's the current landscape. How do you think, the impact on social media,
right?
How we can use the social media to instant updates and news, and how does the integration look like? How can companies offer career and job, especially for Gen Y through social media? Do you have any views on that?
Yep, sure. So thank you, Dwarka, and thank you, panelists. I'm cognizant of the time as well. So